What's going on, everybody? Jack Acid with ApexHead.com bringing you an F1 2012 demo impression, an informal review of the demo for the Xbox 360, and basically just going to be walking you guys through my first experience playing this demo. I downloaded it yesterday. This game is due out next Tuesday, September 18th, at least in the United States. And people very anxious to see it. I think that it's actually being released on the PSN network today, so a lot of people, even in the console market, have not seen this game yet. And hopefully I can give you guys some insight as to what it looks like and feels like. You may or may not know that I've been running a F1 2011 series on YouTube dating back to April, called the I Am No Expert series, so for obvious reasons I've been very anxious to play this and have been looking forward to it with great anticipation. So here we are loading into the demo, and as expected we've got a start sequence here and being prompted for the autosave. Going to go ahead and create that, and going to go ahead and click OK to the demo. Now entering our racing handle, so I'll just get that punched in here. And the bulk of what I'll be showing you is the Young Driver Test Mode, which is new to F1 2012, and I don't know anything about it, but I do know that it's designed for newer players or people interested in learning more about the sport of F1 who are not familiar with it, which is especially true in the United States. And just setting my difficulty level, which I'm sure we can modify later. And so here we have a team selection menu, but I'm not able to select Red Bull or Ferrari, so McLaren may be the only team available for the demo. I'm going to go ahead and select them and see where this loading screen takes us. And you can see there's just some information coming up during the loading sequence talking about the different modes. I believe that there's also a specific situational challenge mode, so I will be interested in exploring that. Okay, here we are for the Young Driver Test.
Hello and welcome to the fabulous Yas Marina circuit here in Abu Dhabi, the location for this year's Young Driver Test. Over the next 2 days, we'll go behind the scenes as we watch the teams put the next generation of potential Formula One drivers through a series of tests to uncover the next superstar. Ask any of the team principals whether outright speed is the sole requirement, and they'll tell you that consistency, feedback and attitude are equally important. Still, a few record times wouldn't hurt a driver's chances of securing a seat for next season. And right on cue, the first engine of the day has fired into life right below my commentary box. So I think we'll soon see a car out on track.
So there we have our little intro. Let's see what happens now. Oh, very cool. Walking through the garage. And this must be our engineer. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey, good to see you again. As your race engineer, it's my job to support you this weekend. When you're out on track, we'll remain in contact via radio. I'll feed you information as and when you need it. As discussed in the team briefing, we're not looking for outright speed to begin with, so just take your time. Follow my instructions and you'll do great. I'll just check the lads are ready.
Alright, so we've been given our helmet, and hopefully this year has customizable helmets. We'll have to wait and see. Very cool, putting the helmet on.
We'll attach comms when you're in the car. Okay, let's get you strapped in.
Alright, here we go. Get in our baby. And this is a sequence taken from 2011, so no changes there. Let's see what the engineer has to say once in the car.
Let's run through the basic controls and ensure the guys have set the car correctly so that you're comfortable. First, let's check that the accelerator and brake pedals are a good fit.
Alright, and a good time to point out I am using a 360 controller, not a wheel.
Let's check the steering lock next. Move the wheel from left to right for me.
And just moving the control stick.
Next up are the gears. The box is either manual or automatic, but you can override the auto at any time by using the gear up and down controls. Pull the right paddle to go up a gear and the left paddle to come down.
Interesting, so now you can have a automatic gearbox but override it.
Okay, everything looks good. We're going to do a simple straight line aero run first. Let me know when you're ready to head out.
So we've gone through our controls, the exact same as 2011 if you played that. Just taking a quick look at our assists here. And going to go ahead and turn off ABS. Traction control I'm going to leave on full. Very tricky with the 360 controller. And normally would race with dynamic racing line off, but for the purpose of demonstration, I think a lot of people use the racing line, so let's leave that on. Going to go ahead and use... interesting. So maybe the manual and suggested is for the automatic, but you can override. I'm not sure. I prefer manual, so I'm going to try and race with manual, and we're going to go ahead and turn the pit assist off. So this menu looks pretty much the same. And looks like our only option is for the Young Driver Test Select. So we've got a day 1 program and we are supposed to do a straight line test, so I'm just going to take these in sequence. And we are officially in uncharted territory for F1 2012. Let's have a listen.
Okay, before we start, I want to let you know that you can change the camera position by pressing the Change Camera button. Try cycling through them until you find the one you like.
And just like before, hitting RB.
If you want to change your camera or assists, you can do it from the pause menu whenever you want. The first test is a simple straight line aero test. Head down the track, accelerating past 160 miles per hour, then brake so that you come to a complete stop in the designated area. The engine is locked to lean, so it's down a little on power at the moment, but it'll give us a consistent reading.
So here we are, got the countdown for the lights. Going to go ahead and use cockpit for now. And a little skip in the gearbox as you start off in first gear, so that's kind of different. Now speeding down this very, very long straight, and the first thing I notice as we get some sort of indicator is that the gears seem a little bit longer. So it looks like we need to stop in here. A little bit of brake lock.
Excellent work. We got some good data, and you're on the brakes at just the right time.
And there we have our first completed objective. So I think the little flashing indicators are going through this is an objective pass. So in that sequence I had to achieve a certain speed, and then I got the indicator. And then of course the brake is the second indicator. So before moving on, let's have a quick look. I can see that I can use RB and LB to change days. Okay, so we have a day 2. Let's see if we're allowed to get in there at some point. Might not be available for the demo. So it looks like our next objective is to watch a video, and I'm going to go ahead and let that play out. If you're interested in skipping that, please use the timecode index in the description.
Formula 1 cars have around 750 brake horsepower being sent to the rear wheels. The delivery can be very violent, so you must be careful to be smooth and precise with all your inputs so that you don't unsettle the car and cause a spin. At speed, the car's aerodynamics generate a lot of downforce, forcing the car to the track. To work efficiently with downforce, you should put a lot of force into the brake pedal initially, slowly reducing the pressure as they turn in for the corner, as you'll have less grip at this stage and be asking the tyres to work harder. When navigating a corner, stay as wide as possible before sweeping in to clip the corner's apex, taking as straight a line as possible. This allows you to get on the accelerator earlier and straighten up the car on the exit of the corner, slowly increasing the pressure on the accelerator as you exit the corner until you're confident the rear wheels will no longer spin, at which point you can use full power.
So a nice little video sequence, especially for those very new to Formula 1 and just understanding the very basic race fundamentals of how to race an F1 car, which is very challenging and difficult. Let's go ahead and take a look at the hairpin turn test and see what that has to offer. Anyway, yeah, a lot of patience and practice.
For this test, we need you to accelerate towards the hairpin corner, turn in at the correct point, hit the apex, and accelerate past 185 miles per hour out of the corner. We need you to stop in the designated area at the end of the straight to complete the test.
So now being challenged to actually get around a corner here, and you can see I've switched my view up. I'll probably be cycling through these a little bit just to check them out. I did notice there was one new view, and as I predicted, that little flashing sequence up there I believe is a objective past indicator, and you can see on the right hand side of the screen there is oh wow. So now being prompted to use our rewind to fix the blown tire, which I was not expecting at all. And engineer just explaining that we have a limited number of flashbacks, and of course you can play with those off or on. So here we go to rewind the race. Going to rewind it back to the earliest point that I can and hit X and start over and avoid the tire puncture. And what I was about to point out before we were so rudely interrupted, by the way, yes, Codemasters, you have me on my toes, I admit it. It looks like there's an objective bar there on the right hand side, and you can see that it fills up as we hit an objective. For example, I just hit my speed objective, so I was given a tick. And looks like the last one is for braking, and apparently I missed one. It looks like there were 6 apparent objectives and I only hit 5, so I obviously missed one somewhere, but it doesn't make a difference. We're able to pass the test anyway. So now taking a look at the next option here, we have a baseline performance test. So let's go ahead and check that out, and you can see there's actually a free run sequence for both dry and wet coming up, so that'll be good.
Okay, time to try stringing together a couple of corners. Turn in so you hit the corner's apex and get on the gas early as you exit. It'll be against the clock this time, so we've turned the engine up to normal. We need you to stop in the designated area at the end of the straight to complete the test.
And speaking of engine settings, let's see if we can modify that for the sequence. I'm hitting the D-pad, which is normally what you would use, and nothing happening. So that's probably related to the fact that we're in a demo as we hit these first two corners. Now dropping it into first gear and able to hit that corner and accelerating out, and hopefully we don't get a blown tire here or something. And unlike the last test, looks like I only have one more objective to go, which would be to stop in the braking zone, I'm sure. So let's see what happens. And car feels very, very good. Very happy with the controls so far in this limited setting. And, oh wow, got a gold medal. That's interesting. Our target was 35 seconds, and we were able to do it in just under 33, it looks like. So medal is kind of interesting. I wonder if that's going to play out in the game somehow. And this looks like a KERS and DRS video. I'm going to go ahead and let that play out. Once again, feel free to skip ahead if you choose, but if you're new to the game, I suggest watching this and learning more about it.
KERS delivers an additional 80 brake horsepower to the rear wheels at the press of a button. It can be used in short bursts or all at once for around 7 seconds per lap. KERS can be used at any time in any session and can be used for overtaking or defending. Deploying KERS in the low gears gives the best return and can pay off greatly when used at the start. The KERS charge will automatically refill every lap, but the KERS system can at times develop faults. However, these can be fixed while the driver is still out on track. DRS adjusts the angle of the rear wing, which reduces drag and gives around 10 to 12 kilometers per hour extra top speed. It can only be used in defined activation points during the race when you're within 1 second of the car in front. It can be used whenever the driver wants in practice or qualifying, but only when dry tyres are fitted.
So for anyone new to Formula One, the KERS and DRS systems are seemingly complicated, but they're not really. You will get used to them, and we can talk about them more later. And so now we're being shown the end of our first day, and you can see we won 1 gold medal, and we did miss that one objective. I'm still not sure what I did wrong there. And actually what's happened here is I've skipped back into day 1 programming to go into the free run. For some reason at the end of the objectives there I was taken back to the main menu, and apparently that's by design, but I did want to get out on track and just sort of play around, so I've loaded back in, and here we go out of the pit lane and just playing with our views a little bit here, and engineer letting us know that we can return to the garage through the pause menu. And don't have any pit control here. I do have pit assists off, I believe. I'm taking a look at the guy on the way out. Let's see if we get any control up here and verify that my settings are what they are. And this is kind of interesting, a little blue line coming out to merge with the green racing line. But you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and switch over to assist that I'm used to. Going to go ahead and take off the racing line and see how it feels. That's the only way I can tell the difference. And one thing I noticed there is that you don't have to wait for the autosave once you change your settings. So if you make a change in game, it lets you get right back to racing. So that's actually very nice. As I go wide here and getting kind of used to the car here, and of course the tires are cold. We're probably out on the prime tires and didn't have an option to change those yet. And if you're new to Formula One, basically there are 2 different kinds of tire compounds in the dry. There's a softer tire which is faster but burns off quicker, and a prime tire which is used for longer stints on them, but they typically lap slower, so that's sort of the trade-off. So you might be thinking, well, why don't you just stay out on the softer tires all the time? Well, that's one of the rules of race regulations, is in the event of a dry race, which we have here, dry conditions, it is required that you use one of each compound, but you can manipulate and change your tire strategy rather, before every race, and you'll learn about that pretty quickly. The exception of that is in wet racing conditions, which allows you to use a sort of damp and dry tire, which is called an intermediate tire, and then there's a full wet tire, which is for heavy rain and when you need to get through a lot of water. And whenever there's a wet race, you're not required to use both of the dry compounds, so a little trickery there depending on race conditions, and again you'll learn more about that as you play the game. But getting back to DRS and KERS for just a moment, just to kind of point out how it works in the game itself, you can see in the bottom right corner I have a green box and a red box, and you'll notice as I go over the start-finish line, the red battery icon there went from half to full. and that's my KERS. It's basically the equivalent of like a turbocharge, and I can use that at my discretion if I hold down the LB button, and it will reset back to full at the end of every lap. This is actual true technology. This isn't some arcadey gimmick. And the purpose of using it is basically extra horsepower. I believe it provides 80 horsepower when in use. So that's what the KERS is. The DRS does a very similar thing, except for a different way. A little flap opens up on the back wing, as pointed out in the video, and you can see now I have it activated. Now sort of that hollow box as it's flashing green. And it does a lot of the same thing. You can use the DRS and KERS at the same time, as you can hear my engine going a little bit nuts. Using the DRS and the KERS at the same time, now skipping ahead a little bit, just sort of playing with the gameplay and challenging what the rules and regulations are with corner cutting and so forth. And there we get a warning from the stewards. It's going to invalidate my lap time. Let's cut off Vern, even though we are here in practice, just kind of seeing what I can do. And not sure about the damage modeling. I might slam into the car and see what happens. It may be disabled. Let's see what happens here. And make contact and no damage. So not able to verify what the damage model's like. Sorry about that, Mr. Vern. Please continue on. Anyway, getting back to the DRS, even though it's similar to KERS, the difference of it is even though you can use it whenever you want in qualifying and practice, there's only a specific zone which is pointed out to you when in race conditions. So you can only use it in specific parts of the track, usually along a long straight, and you have to be within 1 second of the car in front of you in order for it to be activated, and you're given an audio cue when you're able to use it in the race, so you don't have to think about it too much. Obviously skipping ahead here and checking out the wet racing conditions, so got a little bit of spray here, very, very cool effects, and the graphics of this definitely look updated. Very impressed with the water graphics here on the track, and I'll probably change up my view a little bit just to see the different elements. And I almost wondered if they might implement something this year where you get a little bit of spray on your visor, but it looks like they have not included that. And just sort of testing the tires, you can see here I'm using looks like intermediate tires, and that's because it's not heavy rain but rather light rain. I think these are intermediate tires. They could be full wets, but going back to my tire comment, that stripe there on the inside of the tire indicates what you have, and I should have pointed that out on the dry tires. I believe they were white, and I believe the softer tires are red, so I'll have to learn my color coding. And here's the new view. It's sort of an offset from the TV pod, just very, very slight, and I'm kind of testing it out to see if I can make any sense out of it or if it feels pretty good. Not too bad. I do kind of like this bird's eye view for turns, but I prefer sort of the thumb control or a wheel control, depending on what you're using, of the cockpit view. I feel like I'm a little more precise with cockpit view, but this is still pretty interesting and a lot of fun, I can tell. This is also a good time to notice that if you look back down in the right-hand side of the screen here, that our DRS indicator is completely grayed out. And the reason for that, as I go off track and slide just a little bit, is because we're in wet racing conditions, and DRS is not allowed in wet racing conditions, but KERS is, as you can see, so I can still use my KERS. Honestly, I've never gotten a whole lot of use out of DRS in this game. In 2011, whoa, as I slip here and hit the barrier, and fortunately no damage on, so don't have to worry about my tire. Gonna go ahead and let the field go by, be safe about this. But getting back to DRS in 2011, it seemed like it was a little bit glitchy at times. It would work most of the time, but sometimes, as I almost collide there with Vern, sometimes it would allow me to activate it if a car was behind me, even if there wasn't a car a second in front of me. And then other times it would not allow me to activate it at all, even when I was within a second. And by the way, I didn't mention that you can only activate DRS after lap 2, so I am sure that I was within the time where I should have been able to use it, so hopefully they've straightened out those bugs. Gonna go ahead and jump out of young driver mode. There is a small little option for season in the demo, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you the interface here for the season challenge, which has to be gone through in order to start a season. And gonna go ahead and select medium for my starting difficulty. And in the demo we are a member of the Williams team, so we get a little intro here, and I'm not exactly sure how the young driver test will integrate with the game itself. I'm not sure if it's just for new drivers or if it's something that will have a benefit in terms of who you get a contract offer from, but no option for that here. We're paired up here with the Maldonado with the Williams and taking a look at the news clippings, which is kind of cool. I like this feature in 2011 a lot. And not sure how it's going to factor in, but your objective at this point is to select a rival for the season, which is normally something that was handled through the media in the previous releases, but here we select our rival before moving on as I'm sort of scanning through the email. And going to go ahead and not go through the qualifying or race sequences. I'll leave that to my gameplay series, which I'll be starting at the end of next week for the I Am No Expert 2012 series. And I hope you guys will join me for that. In the meantime, I hope this video has been informative for you. Hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to check out my channel for a number of other gameplay videos, mostly exclusively Forza 4, as well as, of course, F1 2011. So, hope to see you guys next week. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon.